INFJs are known for door slamming. Why do we do this though? Can you reverse a door slam? How can INFJs avoid door slamming good people? First, what is a door slam? Basically, it's cutting someone out of your life who has hurt you. This is okay whenever you're dealing with genuinely toxic people, but a risk of door slamming is you might accidentally cut good people out of your life whom you would want there. We are going to talk about how INFJs avoid door slamming good people near the end of this video. The door slam normally appears sudden, thus the name, but sometimes it can be a little bit more slow and you can see it progress a little more. When it seems sudden, it usually means that the INFJ has the means to get away from this person emotionally and physically, or there was some kind of incident that happened that finally broke the camel's back. And please note that I said seems quick. You'll see in a minute why the door slam is not actually as fast as it appears. The door slam may seem a lot slower if the INFJ is not able to emotionally and or physically escape from this person that they're trying to cut out, or if there is no big incident to seal the deal, just a whole bunch of gradual bruises and cuts on their tender heart over time. If the INFJ cannot get away from this person, then what we tend to do is simply shut those people out. Usually this looks like not interacting, not opening up, not sharing anything that we don't have to share. Sometimes in this situation, the other person may not even realize that they have been door slammed. Technically, yes, anyone can door slam, but there are a few reasons why INFJs have become infamous for this habit. We give toxic people a chance. INFJs are idealists who really want to make an impact and help people. So we are more likely than many other personality types to give potentially toxic people a chance. And statistically, if you're giving a lot of people a chance, even toxic ones, yeah, you're going to end up with a lot of toxic people that you gave a chance and it turns out they're not changing, they're not getting any better, they are indeed toxic, and guess what? Surprise, surprise, you've got to cut them out of your life. Thus, the door slam may happen more often with INFJs simply because we were willing to let more people in the first place. Toxic people will often take advantage of INFJ empathy and kindness, which brings us to our next point. We've got to protect our feelings and energy. INFJs are like tofu, but unlike tofu, we do have our own unique flavor aside from everybody else's emotional flavors, and thus end up feeling more and more like these other people. It's part of the power behind our empathy. We can have trouble differentiating from everything else that we're absorbing from other people. This isn't really something I'm ready to talk about all that much yet, but I'm no stranger to emotional and verbal abuse. I used to absorb a lot of what this abuser said and did, and I would think, maybe I should have actually foreseen that this would turn out badly. Maybe I really am stupid. Maybe my mistakes do outweigh my value. It was not until I door slammed this person that I finally began to feel free of anxiety, and I started giving myself kindness, freedom, and patience to make mistakes in pursuit of my goals. And just to be clear, abuse can tear you down no matter what personality you are. It's just its own unique challenge whenever you're an INFJ who absorbs everything and you can't really turn it off. We also tend to have low energy, and we have to protect what energy we do have from energy drains, like stress, like drama. Our inner worlds are so active and we cannot really turn that off. What we tend to do is try to minimize all the activity around us so that more of our energy can go toward balancing and reacting to our inner world. That's why we tend to prefer calmer surroundings. We want authentic relationships. We ain't got time for fake or shallow people. That sounds really rude, but we value self-awareness and depth very highly. Door slams often seem like quick slams in the face, because it's unexpected, but really, it's a long process. It may seem really sudden because we like social harmony, we hate confrontation, and so we just may not communicate our feelings properly beforehand. So, what are the steps leading to a door slam? Consistent emotional strain could be explicit, like fighting and disagreements, or it could be more subtle, like disrespecting them in small ways and neglecting their needs and their wants. No one is going to be perfect, and this is why the strain usually has to be persistent and very painful to trigger a door slam. If I'm close to people who bug me, but not enough to outweigh the good of a relationship, I sometimes do what I like to call a partial door slam. I will keep consistent contact, but I avoid sharing certain parts of my thoughts and feelings that tend to trigger the behaviors that bug me. If someone keeps giving me unsolicited advice when really what I'm looking for is a listening ear, I will tend to not talk about my problems or any negative feelings I'm experiencing with that person to avoid that unsolicited advice. INFJs will stick it out weeks, months, even years to give circumstances time to turn around. We do not rush into deciding on a door slam. I'm sorry, the light's flickering.
It happens sometimes.
Many say INFJs don't feel guilty or regret the door slam, and many don't, but I have noticed that we can regret it if we haven't fully completed this step.
Hey, I gave this person a lot of chances and they still blew it.
That is the key to allowing us to leave that relationship and feel guilt-free. If we didn't give them enough of a chance, that's whenever we go back and say,
maybe I really should have given so-and-so longer to turn himself around.
Now by this time, the INFJ starts to shut down emotionally towards this person. This person is essentially dead to them. And it's this state of being so unemotional towards that person that gives us the ability to cut those ties we would never be able to do in our normal empathetic state. Do bear in mind though, if there was some kind of big disagreement or some kind of big fight right before, the INFJ might feel a lot of strong emotions about that incident because it's fresh on the INFJ's mind. It doesn't necessarily mean that the INFJ is still emotional about that person. It may have more to do with the incident than the person. These are the typical steps preceding the door slam. Now, can you reverse a door slam? It's hard. Some say that it's impossible. I say maybe, so long as you make a sincere effort to learn what you did and take responsibility for the part that you played. Then make a sincere effort to change your past mistakes and start over with them. Remember that it takes a lot for an INFJ to do a door slam, so no doubt they have amassed a huge mountain of grievances against you to have even done the door slam in the first place. So in our minds, you've got a lot to undo. It's really just easier to avoid the INFJ door slam, which means respecting our feelings, opinions, and rights. Really just basic respect. Now, admittedly, we don't always share as much as we ought to. We can be kind of close-lipped about our feelings and opinions, especially if we feel like it's going to rock the boat. So whatever you do find out about the INFJ, either through their body language, their expression, or just what they do happen to actually tell you, remember that and act accordingly. This does not excuse us INFJs for being so close-lipped, but I will get to tips for INFJs here in a moment. If an INFJ does share something outright without even having to be prompted, that means there's a good chance you have bothered him or her multiple ways in this way, to the point that they were willing to put their feelings aside and confront you about it. So take that very seriously. Now this might sound weird, but here are tips for INFJs to door slam properly. You INFJs out there are always giving people chances, and that means that you can't just say I'm never gonna door slam, because sometimes it is for your own good. But let's talk about how you cannot door slam good people out of your life. It is very important that you share your feelings and see how the other person responds. I know it's hard, but there's no way around this. We sometimes expect others to have our empathic abilities, and we think,
this person already knows how I'm feeling.
No, they probably don't. Even if they do happen to be an empath and they happen to realize something, it is nonetheless a good habit to build, to be open and share what you're feeling and what you're thinking. Healthy sharing boils down to two basic components. Just two. Recognizing your own feelings and then sharing them. It can be hard for even you healthy INFJs to know which of the emotions inside of you are yours and which are other people's. Remember the emotional tofu. One of the best ways that I know of for doing this is journaling. It is practical, it is safe, and it allows you to brain dump everything. Just write it down, get it out of your brain, get it on paper where you can really see and sort it out objectively, or as objectively as you can, sorting through feelings. And then once it's written down, start analyzing each emotion. Do you think it came from you? Were you around someone who was having this emotion at some point during the day, and maybe you got it from them and it's not really your emotion? If you think it came from you, what could have made you feel this way? In addition to feelings, you might also talk about who you were around, what happened that day, what you've been thinking about the future, thinking about the past, just everything that could be affecting your emotional state. Analyzing your feelings is very complex, so give yourself some grace and patience as you do this. If you're like me, it can also be hard to tell if the problem is you being too sensitive or someone actually doing something to wrong you. Having the info written out in front of you where you can see it instead of it still whirling all through your head can make things much more clear and help you see connections that maybe you couldn't have made before. Once you get a handle on your feelings, the next step is learning to share them. But quick caution, if someone is abusive and you feel like you are in danger, then it is time to go straight to door slam. That might sound heartless, I know how INFJs think, but please do not take chances with your safety. If you have decided that you are dealing with a reasonable, calm, harmless person, then let's continue. A good mindset going into this is that communication is the key to good relationships. Yes, silence might be easier and less frightening. I understand very well. Silence may seem like the more peaceful solution, but it will ultimately strain and erode your relationships. Please also keep in mind that your purpose going into this should not be to fight them or to guilt them. It is to share with them and work with them. It can feel like a fight, but trust me, if you are bothering to work on the relationship even this much, it is worth it to you to keep the relationship. Also, please think about if you have contributed in keeping this bad behavior going, such as you just laughed off the bad behavior in the past, or you do something similar yourself, both of which communicate you don't really see anything wrong with this behavior. You might have to explain why you did those as well whenever you go into the explanation. Start slowly and gently. Wait until you and the other person are relaxed, not right after a fight. You might start by asking the other person why they do what bothers you. Listen without interrupting and then paraphrase what the person said in order to let them know that you understand what they're saying. Understanding this initial reason helps you know how to proceed. After hearing his or her reason, try saying something positive in general about the person before pointing out the specific problem you have. For example, you could say that you love his sense of humor, but he just takes it a little bit too far whenever he says this certain thing. Emphasize that you care about the relationship and you don't want anything to happen to it. It's a really good idea to phrase the criticism with an I statement instead of a you statement. For example, instead of saying, "You give me advice when all I want is for you to listen and comfort me," you could say, "I feel misunderstood when you give me advice when what I want is comfort." Do you see how the second one seems a lot less like a personal attack? Also avoid using extreme words like never and always, because unless you can prove that they never do something or always do something, it's very likely that the person is going to come back and name all the times that they did or didn't do the thing that you're accusing them of, and then you're going down a rabbit hole of a whole bunch of technicalities. And that's really not what we're going for here. You want to stay focused on your point. On that note, do not bring up everything that they ever did to you in that one setting. Whenever people get emotional, this can happen very easily and it escalates into a big dump of criticism. Focus on the one point that you're trying to make now and save any other problems for other appropriate times. Once you have stated the problem that you have, listen to how they respond and then paraphrase them again. Also watch their body language and facial expressions to get a good gauge of how they're responding. If it turns out that you are doing something to contribute to the circumstances, or they're actually hurt by something that you are doing, the best route is to just sincerely apologize, explain your thoughts and reasons as well, and plan steps to do better too. From there, keep communication open and watch how they respond long term. If you can swallow your anxiety and be honest about your boundaries and feelings, you will find out if that person is good for you based on how they listen, respect, and act on what you tell them. Just being honest is its own litmus test for whether or not you do want to keep this person in your life. If you are still intimidated at the thought of confronting someone verbally, that's fine. Be gentle and patient with yourself. I recommend a good way to start that's called the love letter technique. I find it very practical for expressing hard feelings. I explain all about this technique in my conflict resolution video, which I will link right here, to help you develop nothing less than healthy relationships.